What is up, my fellow parents? Hey, thank you for letting us be a voice in your life, whether you're listening on a podcast or you're seeing our faces on YouTube. How's it going? I got a couple nice messages from people on YouTube that they're really digging watching this podcast on YouTube now. And so thank you so much. And today we got a special guest. I love having a podcast because you get to invite interesting people that have great stories and great value. And so I met my friend Jill about a year and a half ago, 2 years, and we live in the same city. We've become friends. Our families have been friends. We've been in each other's houses many times. I've been on her podcast, and now I get to have Jill on my podcast. What's up, Jill?
Hey, guys. I'm super excited to be here. Fun to be on your podcast, Sean. Wow. I am honored to be here, actually.
No, the honor is ours. So, yes, before we kind of hear a little bit about you, and we got a couple things I can't wait to have people listen to your story and about your tools. We're just happy to have you, Jordan. We've ever had a couple. It's not very often we have a good friend of mine on the podcast.
Well, I think that's where I want to start the conversation because, Jill, I knew Sean when I was a kid, so we go back like a long time ago. What's it like being friends with Sean now? It can't be easy being friends with this guy.
Oh my gosh, what a question.
You know what? Sean is really good at getting people together. That's one of my favorite parts about Sean and his wife, Danielle, actually. He's like, he sees an opportunity and he seizes it. And, if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't get together as much, I think. So I just appreciate that the most about Sean, I think.
That's good. Sean, you love to bring in
We're waiting on the
crowds.
Riddell's RSVP for a Super Bowl party.
Oh, yes.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yep.
Haven't got
I
it
will
yet.
be getting off that morning actually of Super Bowl. So we'll see.
Okay.
Is
Dude,
why we haven't answered yet.
You should be a part of the banning the Super Bowl this year. Like, come on. These two teams
one?
really
Oh,
drive
Banny?
me nuts.
Oh, you mean you're bummed out of the two teams, Jordan? Is that what that means? I'm just so sick
and
of
haven't
the
you been
Chiefs.
following like the referee scandals
I'm just
and all
so
the
sick of watching
it's
the
just
Chiefs.
so
Oh,
sick
man.
of all of it. I'm just like
I just love the Super Bowl because I love football, but I just love food
parties,
and friends.
the commercials.
Yes,
And the
that's
commercials. And I'm going to
exactly-
do one of those games, where people like those square betting games.
squares.
All right.
Yeah.
But
Nice,
all right,
dude.
back to the good stuff, though.
All right, back to the good stuff. Let's really dive in and kind of get an idea of what Jill does, because other than being Sean's friend, kind of break down your story, what you do, and how you became an expert at it.
Yeah. So, by trade, I'm actually an ER nurse, and I also do flight nurse. So now I'm on the helicopter going out and grabbing people and saving lives.
So exciting.
So it is very exciting. It's a privilege.
You just
and an
started, too, like
honor.
2 weeks ago, right?
Yeah, on the flight I just started a couple weeks ago,
Wow.
and it's honestly it's an honor to have people's lives in my hands and have that responsibility and be able to do something about it when moments count. And I love doing that, but there was a part of me that knew at the end of the day when people go home, they needed something deeper.
Mm-hmm.
And because in my own life, I've been through maybe not so much of a physical trauma, but I've been through some emotional things in my life growing up and as an adult. And I didn't know how to process that. And so I love to now teach people, like, how do we really unpack the stuff that's happened? How do we show up in our lives with the amount of energy and love and positivity that we want to give to others around us? How do we show up and make that authentically who we are and who we really want to be? Because I'll ask you, have you guys ever been juggling so many things, like whether it's work, family, then you have your goals, and then you have to worry about your fitness and like, oh man, like, I got to be there for my kid. And oh yeah, they have basketball and football and all you're doing every day is like, you got to push through, But inside, sometimes we just feel like we're barely holding it all together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have
I
you
mean,
guys
that's
ever had
why
those times?
I just go home and drink a pint of vodka every night just to get me through the week and get me going.
I mean,
No, I
and
don't. Actually, I'm doing dry January, so I'm really excited about that. And I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not drinking anything. It's been great, but you're right. It can be very hard and overwhelming. But I always tell people, and you're going to be the one to tell us, like how we're thinking about this. But it's like when you look at everything like you just listed, that's like trying to figure out how to eat an elephant. Like you got to eat it one bite at a time. So I feel like whenever we look at the big picture, it stresses us out. I'll
Yeah.
wake up in the middle of the night. My subconscious will be like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, Jordan, you're getting older. Have you thought about this? Your twins are about to graduate high school, and everything. And I just need to calm everything
said.
down and think about the next step.
Well said.
Yeah. And I'm going to guess that you've done some work to get to the point where you actually can recognize that and calm yourself and then be able to approach things in a different way. And I think right now in the lives that we live, oftentimes in the world we live in, right, there's a lot of things coming at us. There's text messages and emails and, the schedules, and constantly every time you open up your phone or your computer, something needs you. And so we have a lot of what I call rushed energy in the world because
Yeah.
we're always trying to get ahead.
Yeah.
We have so many things on our to-do list, just like you were saying. You're going to bed thinking about it. And this creates a lot of what people call stress
Yeah.
in our lives. And for me, just to give you like a little background of when I started doing this work, I was in that situation of chaos of, trying to manage a home. My third baby had just been born 6 weeks early. He had just gotten out of the NICU. I had a 2-year-old at home, and we all know what that's like if you have children. They're, and I'm assuming you do if you're listening right now as well. The 2-year-olds are hard too. They're running around, they're
Oh,
getting
gosh.
into everything.
hard.
It's a lot of energy. And then I also had a 10-year-old who was in a skateboarding accident and ended up breaking the 2 bones in his lower leg and had to be in a wheelchair. So thankfully, the doctor had sympathy for me during that time, and he gave me a handicap placard
Okay.
because anytime I went somewhere, which felt like not a small feat, it felt like, oh my goodness, how am I even going to handle this situation? I'd have to get a double stroller, a wheelchair, and the 3 kids out of my car.
Goodness.
So finding a parking space for that wasn't always easy, right? And the truth is I didn't even want to go anywhere at that point in my life, and I would run out of things to eat in our cupboards and start heading to the grocery store to get that dinosaur chicken nugget and green bean meal, because that's what we're having again, ladies and gentlemen, because I don't have any energy to make anything else.
Yep.
And I get there, and then what do? We go in the store, and I see somebody at the grocery store I know, and she'll be like, "Oh my gosh, hi, how are you doing?" And what do we all say?
We're
"I'm
fine."
great.
Right.
How are you?"
Yeah. Total faking it. Yep.
Right? I mean,
Well,
and
because you also don't want to unleash your burdens.
No,
out.
you don't
Well,
wanna
do
be
you
that-
really want to know, or
Right.
are you just asking to say,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
so we all say I'm fine, and we pretend our kids are so wonderful at times, right? And really we're inside, we're like, oh my goodness, please don't have an explosion in this grocery cart and make me look like an idiot. And we check out at the grocery store, we go home, we close the doors of our homes, and inside we're feeling alone, resentful. Maybe at that point in my mind, I was very resentful during that time period. My husband had left police work and went into entrepreneurship and was working 16-hour days.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Right. And so
Yeah.
I'm feeling resentful. I'm feeling alone, and all these negative emotions are just creeping in. And then we have these moments in life where we're like, I remember I sat in my car one day and I was just like, maybe if I just left.
Ooh. Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Maybe if I
Run
just
away.
left, maybe I could just get a new job.
Start over.
I'll just get a new marriage, because
There you
that will
Yep.
make it better.
Yep.
It's an easy
That's gonna
solve it
this
easy.
this is gonna solve my problems. Then I'll
Great
be
real
happy.
talk right now, Jill.
Right.
Great
Yeah.
real
Good.
talk. All while you're in the supermarket aisles, this is happening too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
So,
so
yeah, keep going.
yeah,
keep
go
going.
ahead.
Keep going.
No,
No. This
Yeah,
is
you
good.
keep going. Yeah, let her keep going. Let her keep going.
So I mean, and sometimes maybe it's not the situation. Maybe it's just the weight of the unmet expectations, or the constant pressure, to prove yourself, or maybe it's past failures that you are just carrying through life. The resentment, like I said, that built in my relationship, or the guilt of not being able to do it all. I know us mothers, especially, I think that is something we frequently feel, and probably dads too. Maybe there's a loss we've had in our past that we've never actually fully processed. Maybe it's just that silent burden of feeling like you're not enough. And these things will continue to run in our background, right? And then when we try to show up for our kids, for our
Mm-hmm.
relationship, like
Mm-hmm.
we don't have any more energy.
Mm-mm.
So yeah, it sounds like a great idea to run away at that point,
Yep.
Mm.
right?
It sure
Right? Like
does.
if I just ran away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
so I have a quick question. We could go
yeah.
down so many
I know.
different avenues
I
here,
know. I
but
know.
I had something come up recently that I wanted to pick your brain about. You know the saying where it's like, oh man, it just seems like that person's got a black cloud over their head. There's just always something happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
They get in a car wreck and then their ID
I struggle with
expires
those
and
people.
then they lose
Jordan
their
does
job.
too.
And it's just like, man, is there really negative energy over some people and it's
Yeah.
just causing all these problems? And I don't know what I'm asking here. I'm just kind of talking as I say this.
Mm-hmm.
Do
Yeah.
we all have to deal with this, but some of us are better at dealing with it than others? Or is it a viewpoint? We're looking at things differently to make it to where it's not as noisy.
Yeah. So I'll explain it to you. So our brains are actually pattern recognition systems. Okay. So and we can we'll go back to like emotion and how we process those, but when we're talking about our brain and why does it seem like this person
Yeah.
always has something wrong happening?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Well, more likely than not, they're telling you this stuff that is negative that's happening in their life, right? So you're not getting a 24-hour picture of what's actually going on in their life. So more likely than not, they had 10 more things happened in their life that day that were amazing.
Okay.
Mm.
Yeah.
But
Positive
but
things. Sure.
there have been conditioned, most likely they have conditioned their brain.
Yeah.
They have their brain has become a pattern recognition system
Yeah.
for the things in their life that tell them something bad's going to happen.
Yep.
And I'll give you an example in my life.
Okay.
So, growing up, my dad hid me as a secret from his family. So I was a product of an affair, and he nobody in his family knew I existed until after I turned 18, and that's a whole other story. The point of the matter is, growing up, I felt like I didn't matter,
Mm.
right? Like clearly, I didn't matter if I wasn't important enough for him to tell his family about me. Now, when you're growing up, do you say like, "Oh yes, these are the reasons and I don't matter"? No, this is a subconscious thing that's happening in the background. But because I grew up with this, I played this story of I don't matter over and over in my head. And so, what my brain's doing is it's looking for all the ways in life that showed me I didn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
And so, when I got married, my husband, would do 100 things right. But I saw the two things that day
Yep.
that showed me that I didn't matter.
Yep.
Mm.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Great
Wow.
story. Great
That is a
story.
great story. That's a lot
So-
of it looking inside yourself because that
Lot
probably
takes-
caused marriage problems and everything.
Well
that comes
said,
with
Jordan. That is a lot of work that
So-
got you to that concise
Yeah.
story right there, didn't it?
Mhm.
You're
Yes,
looking at your
absolutely.
husband, who I know. I really like your husband. I love your husband, Mike. And nobody's perfect, but yes. So what you're saying is you got this husband, imperfect, career change, and your brain is just wired to look at some of these negative things like I'm not important, I'm abandoned, and you don't really care about me because of these two things. And it's obvious to me because that's what your brain has been rewired to look at. I just tried to say the same thing. Very interesting.
Yeah.
And we
Well,
all do
the
this, by the way, right? We
Mhm.
all.
Yeah.
And this is why this episode is invitation to everyone listening to it. Have you slowed down to do the inner work, to think about these things? How is your childhood? How is painful events of your past, even your present, even your current marriage, your dynamic? What are the messages you're sending yourself? Your brain is sending. Please continue.
Yeah, no. Well, and let's think of it and from a parenting standpoint, right? If let's say, our teenagers are, trying to be more independent, and if we start seeing this as a negative thing,
Mhm.
right? When we start seeing all the negativity in our children,
Yeah.
our brain will then start, okay, when I am in the room with my child and they're doing homework, I already feel anxious. And so your brain is going to be looking for all the ways that
Mm-hmm.
something is going wrong rather than going right,
Yeah.
because we have already told our brains that this is the pattern we're going to see,
Mm-hmm.
if that's the emotion that we're living through, which we'll go into that in just a second. So it's really important to become aware of, okay, in this situation, this is how I'm feeling. Now, how do I change that? Right? Is the question.
I'm sorry. This is all so annoying. Why can't we just look at the positive? Why do we have to
I
do
lo-
all this work to see life the way, God intended us to see life? There's all this negativity we got to get through.
Right. This is why Jordan is such a great podcast host and co-host, because
Yes.
that is what we should all be thinking right now. Like, that is not annoying what Jordan just said. That is actually good. Why are we overthinking this? Why are we overanalyzing? Why can't we just focus on positive things?
Not only that,
That's
Sean,
a
but
really good
why-
point.
Why do we have to do this? Is this like the devil's putting these things in front of you and you're going to see negative? Or it's like, why can't we just all be how you're describing us to be and look at, why does it take so much work? Do you think this is just
let
like
Jill
a life
answer that,
challenge?
because she's our guest. But I'm gonna tell a quick story. Yesterday, one of my VIP members, I'll change her name. I'll call her Annie. She's on the soccer field with her 11-year-old daughter, who's been like the golden child up until recently. Now this 11-year-old is getting hormonal, sassy, rolling of the eyes, and it's really getting under her skin. So
Yeah.
11-year-old has a bad accident on the soccer field yesterday, or
Oh, no.
the day before, right? Sunday. So what does the mama bear do? Well, the mama bear does what, she thinks is the right thing to do. She goes up to her daughter, who's now sitting on the bench, and says probably something loving like, "Hey, are you okay?"
Right.
Right? Because she's only 11. And what does the daughter do? The daughter gives her a real sassy, real negative, really
embarrass me,
disrespectful,
Mom.
like, "Get out of here."
Yeah.
And then the mother takes a few steps back. Is like, okay, just checking it. And then she goes away and she has to leave the soccer field. And she starts crying. Why? Any guesses? Why? Why is she crying?
The daughter is crying.
No, sorry.
Oh, the mom is crying.
is bawling now. Why? Why?
Because she just got rejected by her daughter.
Yeah, but I mean, who doesn't get rejected by an 11-year-old, right? I mean, does that mean you're going to
Yeah.
start crying
true.
in your car or wherever she cried? Like, why?
I'm going to guess there's a bigger picture to that,
Of course there is.
a deeper one.
This is trying to answer. This is my version of answering Jordan's question
Yeah.
without really answering the story.
Because it's never about what it's about.
It's never about
Right.
what it's about. It's not about
Yep,
you being
exactly.
rejected. It's because this wonderful mom who lives in Orange County, California, her home life was so poor that she moved out of her home when she was still in high school. I think she was 16. She moved out, and she was like, I don't want to be a part of this anymore. It's just so negative. And so
Yep.
she kind of abandoned her parents, or did they abandon her? And so now she is a wonderful, lovely mom who is dealing with some core wounds about the greatest fear of her is being abandoned or rejected by her own children.
Yep.
And so that was, it pushed that button for her. It hit that core wound is I'm being rejected by my kids and they don't want to be around me, just like what happened to me. And so to answer your question this is all of us. And if you have less of those core wounds than me or this mom, well then wonderful, man. That's great. But have some compassion for the rest of us who didn't grow up with such, warm, lovely home environments as you did with your parents. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. And I think oftentimes those moments, I think if we could really sit with those moments a little bit longer than we often do, because when we're first unpacking that stuff, it's not easy that we know that, me crying in the car is from, the past situation that we've dealt with or the things we've grown up with, right? It takes time to unpack that baggage, so to speak. I call it our grief cases that we go through life with. It takes time to learn how to unpack that, and we don't always connect the dots right away. So I think when we start to understand ourselves a little bit better, it's a journey, right? We're never going to get it perfect. Like there's no such thing as perfect parents. There's no such thing as perfect kids. So give ourselves some grace, but also like, it does require us to do the work. And I think a lot of people were always wanting more tools to put in our toolbox,
Yeah.
but oftentimes those tools stay in our toolbox.
Mm.
They don't actually come out and get used. And so my thing, and something I'd like, those listening to take away is like, think of those tools that you have, and then like the best tool in that toolbox is the one that you're actually going to use.
You know what's sad though? People listening to this podcast, they are looking in their toolbox to try to find the right tool to use. But think about all those people who don't even look at the toolbox, who don't even, because you're saying you have to put in work. There's a lot of people out there that A, don't even know they have to put in work, or B, can't figure out how to put in the work the right way.
I was raised by some of those people you're talking about.
Okay, well, there we go.
I was raised by people who didn't want to put in grow their toolbox, right? And that's why anyone who's listening to this is you're probably a really good parent. You're working on becoming a great parent because you're trying to enhance your toolbox. And that's actually the one thing we had planned with Jill for today, everybody. Jill and I didn't really have a plan. It was kind of fun, but we did have one plan. And one thing we talked about is we were going to talk about a tool that she was going to give us. So Jordan, are you ready for her to give us a great tool?
Yes,
all right.
please.
And then we're going to, all right, tell us, go for it.
Okay, so my biggest thing right now is that I just want you to learn a tool, and that's what we're talking about, that you can help manage your energy, right? Because we all want to show up, like I said in the beginning, of like the way we want to show up with energy, we want it to be fun. We don't want to be the tired, angry parent, right?
Can I jump in real quick? Jordan probably doesn't like me jumping in sometimes, but
no, I love it.
Okay, I've told you this in person before, Jill and Jordan. I used to be really against that word energy, and I have my own reasons why. But right now, I'm definitely accepting.
Well,
of that word.
it gets overused sometimes. It gets overused.
Yeah, it's like, what is it like?
Right.
Is it? What are you even talking about? Like, but the reality is that there really is positive energy, negative energy, feminine energy, and masculine energy, and it's just kind of how we talk about it. Whether you're talking about it with this audience or this person. And so I just want to just double down and say, like, this is such a thing. Like, some people, they have really good energy when they leave the house. They're out there as parents and they're putting on their best foot forward, but then they come home and it's just so much negative energy. And then they bring that to their kids. It's like, do you want to be a thermostat or do you want to be a thermometer? Do you want to be a thermostat or a thermometer? What a thermostat what a thermometer does, we got a weatherman here, so you can correct me, is it reads the temperature around you. It tells you what the temperature is. But a thermostat, it sets the temperature. And that's what we want to do. We want to be parents who set the temperature of energy, of love, of positivity, of not joining the circus, of order and structure and unconditional love. So
that's good.
We need tools to become thermostats, not thermometers. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And when I talk about energy, I'm talking about like the capacity that we have inside of us to adapt to prepare for, and to recover when we are faced with stress or challenge in our lives. So how much energy do you have inside of you, right? And we have, like, from a science standpoint, we have 4 domains of energy. We have physical energy, we have emotional energy, we have mental energy, and we have spiritual energy. We all have these tanks inside of us of energy, and they all affect each other. Okay. But science has proven that the number one domain that drains our energy the most are our emotional domain. Okay. They take up the most energy that we have. The positive to that is that emotions are also our primary drivers of our energy, meaning they can give us more energy. Okay. So this is what I'm talking about. When I'm talking about energy, this is actually like how we feel. We know what it feels like to feel like we're ready to go on a run, or we know what it feels like when we're depleted and we don't want to, right? There's 2 different things there. So today I'm going to ask you guys to just take out a piece of paper.
Let's do it. Because
we're going to actually just do this together right now.
Let's do it.
Right? So I think that's helpful. Just do it in real time. So going back to emotions, right? And negative and positive. So um, we're going to start with getting aware of our negative emotions. Like, how do we do that? And like, why do we want to do that? Well, first of all, when we can acknowledge the things that are stressing us or causing us stress, is what we often say. This is going to actually take some of that charge from the stressor in our life, the emotional drain in our life. Okay. When we can even just acknowledge what is going on, those negative emotions. And oftentimes, negative emotions in our lives are like the apps running on your cell phone right now.
Okay.
So, right now, you guys probably have 10 or 20 apps running in the background
Yep.
on your
Yep.
phone. You don't know which ones are open. You don't know that they're draining your battery until your phone dies or your phone starts glitching out and you're like, oh man, I probably have 20 apps open on my phone, right? Those are like negative emotions. Sometimes they're in our brains, they're draining our batteries and we're not even aware of it. So that's why we want to start here and we want to start becoming more aware of what's going on inside of us.
Is one way to do that like I'd sent today someone at work was like, because they were asking about something. And they're like, I don't want to focus on the negative. I'm just trying to focus on the positive. And if I don't have anything nice to say, I focus on the positive. So here's what I will say. And then she went in and talked about what she liked about X, Y, and Z instead of the big picture. Would that be a fast way to get there, or is that hiding the way you really feel about the negative stuff?
It totally depends.
Okay.
Right? Because if she is actually still experiencing a negative emotion from that situation, then it's draining.
Okay.
If
Got it.
if she's telling the truth, right? And that's why I have a podcast called Life Without Secrets,
Yep.
because that's what that actually means is like, is that the truth? Is that what you are really feeling? And so if it is a negative, then it's draining. If it is actually a positive and she really doesn't think it's that big of a deal and she's going to reframe it that way and that works for her, that's perfect.
Okay.
So you'll never know. It's up to
You'll
her,
never know.
right?
Okay. Got it.
So go ahead and create 3 columns on a piece of paper. So the first column, you're going to label stressor. I have a little sheet right here.
Okay.
Your second column, you're going to label emotional response. And your third column
good.
is what I do now.
Nice.
So just go ahead and create a piece of paper. Okay. 3 columns.
I didn't know Jill was going to do this, but fun fact,
Yep.
Jordan, and everyone listening, we reached out to Jill and Mike and said, hey, can you lead a group in our home? So we have like a little marriage group with 4 couples in our home, and Jill is putting us through some of these exercises and sharing some teachings, and we're kind of going through it together, and it's been so fantastic. So please continue. Okay, stressors, emotional response, and what I do.
What do I do now? Yep.
Stressors. Freaking kids.
Yep. So in the first column,
bedtime routine, when they don't take their dang vitamins,
talking back,
being late to school,
Say
might have
no.
happened today, rolling of the eyes,
me.
teenagers stealing my hangers. Gosh, that one. It has to. I have a new parenting tip, everybody. Here's what I do.
Oh, let's hear it.
Honestly, I was like, Danielle, I'm shaving. Where's my razor? It's like, oh, well, teenagers took it. It's like, what?
Took your
razors.
Took your razor?
So this is what I do now. You can take it or leave it or judge me all you want. I literally do this. I'll say, hey, I just want to let you know. This is a teenage daughter, by the way. You're about to get tortured sometime today. I'm torturing you. And they know what that means. You
like tickle fast or
oh, no,
or
I'll
make
take my
embarrass
finger.
Them. Oh.
And I'll just jam it into like their hip.
Their ribs?
No, their ribs. Or I'll pin them down
terrible.
on a bed and I'll like, you know what you would do? Like I used to do to my sister growing it's like Chinese torture where you tap on the head.
Yep.
You know, or on the chest.
Typewriter. I used to get the typewriter.
Typewriter, and I'd be like, don't take my hangers. And I gotta make it painful, but also silly and fun.
Sure.
I gotta I can't take it too far. Otherwise, that's just weird. But that's what I do now. And
So this is all going in his stressor category. We've realized this is great,
Yeah,
Sean.
yeah, this is all the stressors. So, and those listening too, like stressors are like in your daily life, like events, people, situations,
Oh, yeah, public
interactions,
speaking.
like Sean is
Getting on
describing.
social media could be a stressor nowadays.
Yeah,
Golly.
gosh, yeah, it really is. That you find stressor or stressful. It could also be like a heavy workload, financial uncertainty, a lack of work life balance, worrying about your child being at that one friend's house. Who knows? And then in the second column, you're going to write down the emotional response to each one of those stressors that you wrote down. It's important here to name the emotion rather than just describe the situation. And if you're unsure of the emotion that you're actually feeling based on that stressor, it's okay. I was not raised with a family that ever talked about emotions. And so when I started doing this work, I would literally Google 100 list of emotions and I would just go through the paper and figure out, oh, yeah, that totally makes me feel this way. Okay?
I always try to really help my clients, Jill, whether they're one-on-one clients or in my membership, to really enhance their vocabulary around their own emotions. I do not like the words angry, frustrated, or awkward, or annoyed. They're really not good words. People don't normally respond well to those words. Even the word disrespected, children normally do not respond well to that word.
Very, very
and
true.
there's better, more inviting words for you, as your goal is to help people to know you and respond to you and care for you and hear you. Find better ways than these words of understanding yourself. And so please continue, Jill. Thank you.
Yeah. So I love that. So in the third column, I want you to note what you're currently doing in response to that stressor, whether it's pushing through, avoiding, complaining, rehashing. What is it that you do in response to that stressor?
Now, avoiding sounds like it would be bad, but couldn't you also argue avoiding might be good? Like, I avoid Facebook because I know it makes me upset, and all it is noise and nothing that's going to benefit. So I avoid it because it's not healthy for me.
Yeah, that would be a positive thing.
Okay. All right. So avoiding doesn't have to be negative.
So the emotional response. Okay. So Facebook, let's just say, is the stressor. Emotional response would be what? Like
anger,
overwhelm,
hatred over mankind because of how stupid it seems like people are.
Good.
Disbelief of just like what people think that other people care about. Why are you posting this? No one cares.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just a term that that Sean doesn't like. Frustration. All those terms.
Yeah, and there's always questions that I always ask myself, right? Like, how do I feel? Have I ever felt that way before? And it could be in a different situation. Okay. And are they ever related?
Okay.
And then you ask yourself, okay, then if this is related, then is it the truth that Facebook equals this? Or is there something deeper there that there's more truth to be told to yourself?
Got it.
Does that
and just
make
to
sense?
be helpful,
Really
I'll share some of my words,
Yeah.
because I just focus on parenting on mine for my stressors, home life type stuff. Emotional response, some words that I put down were unimportant, unseen, unvaluable, disrespected, violated, mocked. And then here's something I felt when I woke up this morning, because I went to bed early, and I found out that my wife Danielle was staying up late with the teenagers, talking and hanging out, and I feel left out because I try to stay up late with the teenagers. It's really hard because I enjoy that, and I hate feeling left out. And so that's something I don't want to miss the teen years, because I want to wake up at 5 a.m. to work out and then go to bed at go to Coco's for dinner at 3:30. And then go to bed at 5 p.m.
So
You get the Coco's.
That sounds like a great night in my world.
Right, Coco's. Do you have Coco's on the East Coast? Coco's is
but
Marie Callender's
dinner,
like old people restaurant that are going out of business. I don't want to be that guy. 46, I got teenagers. I want to stay up late with them sometimes. So I hate feeling left out. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. So, all right, please, pass the ball back to you.
And then you'd write down, okay, well, what do I do now in response? Do I just keep quiet? Do I avoid talking about it? Do I rehash it in my
So these are
mind? Like,
bad choices. What I do.
No,
not
because
necessarily, no.
this is the reality because some people might be in a situation that Sean is in where they have a predicament and it makes them feel a certain way, but it's like, what are the answers for Sean? Let's just take the staying up late situation. He could stay up late and hang out with his kids and then not work out the next day, and then does his health deteriorate and his mental energy deteriorate because he doesn't have that coming in the morning? Or does he force them to go to bed early so he doesn't feel left out? He can't do that.
That's not an option.
That's not a thing.
All right, kids, everyone. I know it's 9 o'clock.
I'm going to bed.
Also, you guys
You're
at 6
going
in
to
the
bed
morning.
too. No one can have fun. Does he not get enough sleep at night?
This
But then your
actually, I've
energy's-
actually talked to a couple people and my wife a lot about this. It's not a stressor, but that exact topic, that's the number one struggle in my life right now that I'm thinking a lot about. Like this work-life balance, like who do I want to be? What time do I want to
Yep.
go to
Right.
sleep? Because if I don't wake up early, then I can't work out. But if
Right.
if I have to wake up early to work out, or do I? It's just please continue. Yeah, this is why we're having these conversations because this is good for us to have these conversations.
Yep. And also like think about those questions, like that we were talking about before. Like, is this is how I feel, this is the situation. Have I ever felt this way before? What was that situation? And is that the truth, right? Like, am I really left out because I missed this one opportunity? Or have in this week span, I've gotten to do this 3 times and I'm really grateful for those 3 times because this is what I got from that.
Can you give us some examples of what do people write in this section? Like, what do I do? Like, obviously, what do I do? People yell, they snap, they avoid, they drink. Some people
Yeah.
whine on their podcast, which is called the Sean Donahue Show. So what else do people do? I think I know, but like, you've been doing this exercise with clients and you've got a coaching firm, you've got a course. What do people do? What do people write there?
People complain, right?
Oh, they do
They go on
complain.
Facebook. They go on Facebook.
Oh, and they write
complain.
crazy stuff on
They
Facebook,
write
on
crazy-
Jordan doesn't have
Instagram.
Facebook. We're gonna have to go to therapy for that one.
Yeah, Jordan's dating himself right now. Facebook. What else do people
No,
put
I'm
on
just
there?
using that social media. It could be Twitter. It could or X.
Oh,
it could be
there's
Instagram.
unlimited
it could be
scrolling. But I think
Yeah.
I think a big thing that people do is something that you told us some really great stories here today, but that story of that mom in the grocery aisles, you told it so well. I captivated that story. It's like you're just full of stress, and then you see your friend, you're like, "Hey, how's it going?" So it's like you become you're just full of that negative energy inside of you. That is a big thing that we all do.
Yep. Yeah. We
So
withdraw.
do we need to like eliminate?
Do we need to eliminate? Eliminate what?
Eliminate
Um,
hangers.
things? Yep. Do we need to eliminate tasks? Do we need to learn to say no more? Do we need all the stuff we listed? There's like a lot going on, right?
Yeah.
There's distractions, right?
Yeah.
Do we need to eliminate and simplify and like go
Yeah.
read a book and sit under a candlelight fire for a second? Get rid of blue light. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Do we need to
Yes, and
simplify,
I actually
guess?
this is the next thing I want to talk about is like
Okay.
what okay, so we have these stressors, we have this negative response, this emotional response, right? That's draining our energy. This is what we're doing right now. No judgment to whatever it is that you're doing in response to that stressor right now. The question that's the question, right?
That's the question.
Jordan is like,
What do you
what
do?
what do we do, right? And so there's a couple different things, but I'm going to walk you through the next exercise, which is like, how do we do this? And one of the things is just becoming aware of what brings us the positive emotions. How do we fill our own
Chill.
cups?
Freaking great advice. What do we do? That was amazing what you said. You become aware of the positive. What fills
Yeah, it
your
was a-
cup?
yeah,
'Cause
that's good.
What do you do? Cut stuff out? And her answer was even better than yours, Jordan. It was so good. I'm
great.
just nerding out right
So
now.
good.
Please continue. We become aware of what actually fills our cup. I love where you're going with that.
Yes.
I was like, what's she
Yeah.
going to say? What's she going to say?
Right? But in the moment when we're in those negative reactions, I want to pause there.
Okay.
Because before I go into how we determine what we need to do next, we have to, in order to be able to do the thing next, in order to change the situation, we have to pause. We have to become aware of what's going on in the moment and what can I do about it now. We have to have that moment of time, because oftentimes we have a stressor that's going on. We're in a negative emotion. Like, let's say they come home, your kids come home, and um, they start doing their homework and they ask for help, and then they really don't want your help, and you get into this argument, and it's like, that's not how you do it. And well, I'm just trying to help you. Like, this is how you guys know what I'm talking about. Like the homework fights, like
Oh yeah.
that's been a huge thing in our home before. And I felt like it would just spiral out of control in those moments, until I've learned like breathing techniques. And I know that some people are like, oh my gosh, like not another breathing technique. But anything that you do to create a pause, okay? And
Yeah.
breathing techniques have been around forever, in every form, in yoga, in Lamaze for when women are giving birth.
Mm-hmm.
It's because there's science
Mm-hmm.
in our nervous system that says these work,
Yep.
right? Like we can actually monitor them. Sean's seen me hook people up to a monitor that we can see what's going on and have that pause to change the emotion and what's going on inside of us and how our organs are working together, our
That's great.
cardiovascular system,
Yeah.
our
Is
digestive
that like an
system.
example of like biofeedback? Is that what you did in
Yeah,
our living
it
room that
really is
day?
like biofeedback. Yeah.
Biofeedback. You can actually see, where
Yep.
you're like, I guess, stress
Isn't that weird?
level
Like
or-
how a deep breath can really completely change everything inside of you.
yeah,
That's
Mhm.
wild.
right.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
really weird. Take a deep breath. What?
Also,
So-
taking
Oh my
your
gosh, I feel
knuckle
better.
and shoving into a teenager's back
And-
feels really good. Also,
Right. Oh no, where did Jordan go?
I know he's
there
back.
He is.
Yeah. So
Okay.
and I think that's another way of just saying the same thing you're saying. Like, everybody think of somebody that you really admire. They're a very positive person. I'm going to think of you, Jordan.
jeez.
Not being serious, and
That's
you're
very
just
nice.
they're just full of love and positivity. They're like a light in this world, and you wonder, like, is their life easier than mine? Like, what why? What's their secret? And I think what you're saying is like they're aware of the positive things in their life, and like Jordan is an avid outdoorsman. I'm jealous of, and he sends me pictures on lots of his trips, fishing and
We're
outdoorsman
gonna
and
get
this.
into
So
that.
Jordan, you and your wife Danny, who is your number one fan and cheerleader, you have a team there where whatever is going on, she's cheerleading and supporting your awareness of your positive mental health, and you've arranged your life and your finances and your schedule to fill your life with a lot of things that fill your cup. That's probably one of your secrets to your success, your financial success, your marriage success. And then you and Jill have a lot in common. One of the things you have in common is that you both have a regular job, but you both felt this calling to do a podcast and wanted to share and help the world and to influence them. And this is just another like manifestation of how much I admire you, that you're volunteering your time. Well, not just volunteering, we make money from this, but to do this for the world,
No, it's very nice of you. Thank you. And the real reality is if I don't do it, I'm going to get a knuckle shoved right in my hip from Sean. But you know what? That's
Parenting
okay.
tip.
That's very nice of you. But you know what? Jill talks a lot about putting in the work, and I feel like at a young age, my parents instilled to me the power of the mind. To think is to create. Think outside the box. You're in charge of your emotions. And so that was instilled in me at a young age, and then I've always seeked that advice, looked for more of that. Like talking about, there's a term, neuro something, where you rewire your brain.
Neuroplasticity.
There you go. And like people can do that. And I'm like, really?
yeah.
So like
And
I've
that's
been
what
feeling,
this is.
yeah, but it's hard. It doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
No.
And now I can look at the good and things that make me happy and just brush off the negativity or a rude comment about me and not let it bother me when it used to.
Yeah.
It used to a lot.
Which is really cool, because what is happening here on this podcast is I can see your faces. So what I see is happening is Jill is taking us on this journey and then giving us these great tools and telling us how to use it. And then we have a living example sitting here with us named Jordan, who's actually like, yeah, this is actually what I do. Right. And that's, I feel like that's kind of what's happening right now, which is pretty cool.
It's like living in grace, right? Like people tell me that all the time, you should be grateful. And I think I have this weird feeling where I don't know why, but it's like someone else always has it worse. I'm just grateful to be alive. Why am I born? Why was this other kid not? Why am I here? So the fact that I get to at least do the journey, I'm grateful. And I don't know if that's because I trained myself or where that comes from, but you know, I just enjoy going through life. And even though it can be very hard, you got to look at the positive, because what's the alternative? Going back in the ground? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
if we're here, we might as well have fun if we can, even though it's hard.
Yep. Yeah. So I think that's super important. I think you probably have programmed your brain to find the good, is what it sounds like. Even from an early age, like your parents did that for you as well. I wasn't someone that was raised with that, and so this is a goal of mine to not pass that on to my children, to not give them those tools, but to um, give them like what you had growing up, Jordan. It
Yeah.
sounds like, right? Like I don't know a whole lot about your story, but um, to not leave them feeling like there's not hope, that there's not um, positivity around every corner,
Yeah,
because
something to look forward to.
yeah,
Yeah, it's
like
so good.
we're all
Yeah.
like, life is a roller coaster, right? Like we're gonna go down, but there's always going to be the
Yeah.
up, and sometimes the up feels hard, but like we're gonna get here and then we might go down again, but we're always gonna come back up,
Can
you
I
know?
can I get vulnerable with you guys and tell you a quick story that just came up for me?
Yeah.
All right, so I've told stories of other people here today about my client on the soccer field, Jordan. So short version. You know, my after my parents' divorce and I moved to San Diego and my dad stayed up in the San Francisco Bay Area, I barely saw my dad ever for the rest of my life. And I would see him like once or twice a year, and he would not one time travel down to see me in San Diego. And so I didn't know this at the time, you know, but I was developing a pretty core wound there. I don't know. I haven't quite landed on the wording of how I want to describe it. Just feeling unwanted, you know, unwanted wound. Some people maybe call that an abandonment wound. And then I didn't realize this until, you know, the last 5 years ago. I think the last 5 years, that how I brought that into my marriage. And how I brought that into my marriage is that I had this voice in my life, and it's my own voice. It's the voice of the wound speaking to me, that my wife, Danielle, she doesn't really care about me. She doesn't really love me. She just cares about herself. And it's such a convincing voice. But through this deep inner work with people like you guys and my therapist, Teresa, I've realized that it's just such a lie. It's not true at all. She is such a loyal person to me. She loves me so much, but it's a feeling that comes up sometimes. I feel like she doesn't care about me. And some of that is fine. I'm allowed to feel my feelings, and maybe she's not being as caring as she could be, and that's okay too, right? And I realize now that I am actually like feeling like I am so healed, like still got work to do, but so free, because now I just look at her, and the voice that speaks to me now, like 9 out of 10 times, 19 out of 20 times is, oh, she loves you. She's here for you. You're just going through something right now, so don't freak out. It's all good. And I'm like, so true. And like, I'm trying to, I see the same thing playing out in her actually. So I'm trying to help her see, like, I'm here, honey. I love you. We're 21 years of marriage. I'm not going anywhere. Like, we're getting through this. And I'm starting to see her maybe, I don't want to speak for her, but yeah, that's like, this is like how I remember this woman. I called her Annie. She said to me just yesterday on the VIP call, it's incomparable what my parents did to me to what's happening with my children. They don't compare. And I said, that's true, Annie. They don't compare. But what's happening is they connect. And they're still connected for you. And I'm trying to help you see how they're connected and bring you that freedom and that healing right now. And that's kind of what good. I don't know what we're going to entitle this episode, Jill. Maybe I get your advice, but this is like what's happening here. We're like talking about where the root of this negative energy comes, and these stories of our lives are prequels, is what I like to call them, the prequels that have led to the narratives that we're living in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. And I mean, that's just like my I don't matter story too, right? Is like we don't realize like how our past actually affects our future until we want to pause and dive into it. and then see the positive and start rewiring our brain, like you were saying, Jordan, and creating that neuroplasticity to recognize the positive again and not the negative. And that requires time and work. It's not something that happens overnight, because if our brain is patterned to see, I don't matter, for instance, and mine, it's going to take me time then to develop a pattern that, oh no, look, he did this, he did that, he did this. Wow, I'm super grateful for the man that I married, right?
Yeah.
Like, wow, he does it, like, love our family. Like, he sacrificed this. Like, maybe he wasn't here then, but he was here, he was there here, and start
Mhm.
recognizing those
That's good.
patterns.
That's good.
Those patterns. It reminds me of like when, that technique people say that, and I don't know, maybe you guys have talked about it on the podcast before, like if you're going to say one thing negative to your child, then you want to like have 5
5
positives.
to 1 ratio.
Yeah.
Okay. It's the same. That's the reason why. It's not just because you should have 5 positives for your
Mhm.
1 negative for
Yeah.
the child.
Yeah.
It's actually
Mhm.
more for
That's
yourself,
deep. Yeah, that's good.
because the child knows whether or not you're telling the truth.
Mm.
Right? The child
so
feels your
good.
energy. So when you're telling them those positive things, if you're not actually believing them yourself,
Mm.
your child knows it.
So
So really, when we're saying 5 things positive about our child, it's not for them.
Mhm.
It's for your brain, so that you can make sure you're filling your brain with positives, true positives, so you can experience your child from a positive
yes.
emotional
Okay. That's good.
place, and
Yeah.
that child will feel those positive emotions coming from you, even when it's something negative.
So
Does
if we
that
were
make
looking,
sense?
yes, it does. If we were
Okay.
looking at like cliff notes or a cheat handbook on
Mhm.
how to get to this stage, it doesn't sound like it's easy. It sounds like it's
Mm-mm.
constant work.
Mhm.
We have
Yep.
to constantly reflecting. But I'm trying to figure out how to give the listener something to take away from this. And it's almost as if we need to be saying like, hey, you need to be filling up your emotional cup with positive podcasts, positive books, things that are constantly teaching you how to do this with your mind. Because if not, the world is giving us the exact opposite. It's showing
So
us what we need to, be mad at, and
Mm.
I
in
think
the opposite.
I think it looks different for everybody. And
Okay.
that's why I teach something called an emotional playlist.
Okay.
Ooh, I like Spotify
Building
playlists.
Yes, exactly. So, an emotional playlist is like that CD you burned in high school that has all your favorite songs, or the
Oh yeah,
tape
I
that
used to
you
sell
Mm.
those for
recorded.
$10 a pop
Keith,
in
Keith
middle school.
Sweat. Keith
Right?
Sweat,
Or
Mark
Download 'em.
Morrison, 90s jams, early
Remember
Usher.
Napster and LimeWire? We would
Ah,
download
Oh
all those
my
ah.
musics.
goodness,
Do you
I
Yo,
remember
forgot
that?
about
first one I did was Usher. Oh, please continue.
that. Yeah. Usher was my first concert.
Oh gosh,
Oh
so
my
talented. All
gosh.
right, yeah, please continue.
Or maybe we can even go back and say it's the tape that you recorded
Yeah.
your,
Mm.
songs from the radio on, so you
Mm.
didn't have to wait for them to come
And
on,
then you
right?
give it
Or
to your girl. Yeah.
Love Mix 1990.
Or nowadays, like you said, Sean, it's that Spotify list
Oh
that
yeah.
you go to when you're like, you know
Yeah.
what? I need to just have one of those
Fun
moments. I'm gonna
fact,
turn my
if anyone
favorite
is
songs
interested
on.
in listening to what I listen to, I have
Yeah.
a huge Spotify playlist that you might
Really?
enjoy. Yes, you might enjoy. I'm very proud of it. I have many, but it's called Chill. I'll send you the link in my bio. Just ask for it. Here it is. It's called, I'm like totally interrupting.
I don't remember who you made
the
me listen to
podcast.
back in high school.
It's called Chillis Coffee Sesh.
Okay.
Chillis
Coffee
Coffee Sesh.
Sesh.
You can send me the link. You can find it. There it is. It's 14 hours and 16 minutes of the Chillis Coffee Sesh. Yes. You know
That's
this
awesome.
song?
Oh,
You hear this? You
wow.
know this song? Do you guys know
Okay.
this
No,
song?
but it's making me feel good.
Yes.
I like it.
All right, back to what you're saying. That was so rude of
No,
me.
I love it. We're all taking a pause for the neutralizing
All right,
coffee sesh over there.
playlist.
Yeah. So playlists, yeah. So this is like emotional playlists are like that, like those things that make you feel like you want to put your windows down, turn the music up. You just got your driver's license and you're taking that
Oh
first
yeah.
trip, right? Like
Oh.
that feeling, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Like you want to
Freedom.
Yes, you want to create a list of things that produce these kinds of emotions so that you know how to prepare for stressful moments if you know they're coming, how to adapt to ones that you're currently, going to face or that you have faced in the past. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what do we do about these, right? That has
Mhm.
been our question.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said before, emotions are our primary energy drainers, right?
Yep.
Those moments when we don't show up the way we want to or reactive.
Okay.
They're also our primary energy drivers, meaning emotions give us energy. And it's why when you turn on that favorite song and you roll down your windows and you feel like you're free because you just got your license,
Mm.
it's why you feel like that. You're like, freedom, right? It's this
Yeah.
positive emotion. So like life is good. Life is great. So the emotional playlist works the same way, except instead of songs, it's about identifying those moments, situations, events, or people that fill your cup.
Oh yeah, it's like that part in the movie where they go back and they show you all the beautiful things of someone's life before they pass away, or something crazy like that at the end of the movie.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right. We
those are
all have
nice. Those
that
make you feel
story.
good. They make you get a little sad
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, and
Yeah.
yeah, I like that.
So we're gonna get out another piece of paper, you guys, because
Okay.
we're about doing the real work here.
Okay.
Okay. So you're gonna instead of 3 columns, so you're gonna have 2.
Okay.
So it's not as hard.
Okay.
So you're gonna do situation, event,
Okay.
and emotional response. Okay.
Okay.
Teenagers stealing hangers and my razor motion response.
That goes
Pissed
on your
off.
other
Yep.
list.
Okay. Situational event. Like what?
Oh, this is for a
So
positive list. This is a
yeah.
positive list,
So
Oh.
Sean.
you're
This
gonna
is
create
what makes
2
you
columns.
happy.
Okay.
So the situation and event in the first column is those things that recharge you, those
Okay.
moments
When
that
the
fill
Raiders
your
win,
cup.
which
Yes.
never happens.
Maybe
So-
it's laughing with your kids.
Laughing.
Maybe
So,
it
like,
is that
literally,
time.
one of my favorite parts of my week is Saturday mornings. I drink a cold brew coffee and I sit down on
Nice.
my couch and I
Yes.
listen to my chillest coffee sesh. Sometimes I
Yes.
read the Bible, or I just pray, meditate. So that would be an example.
Absolutely. And then what is the emotion you feel when you're doing that?
I feel whole. I feel recharged.
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
Yes.
I feel loved and seen by my wife, actually, because she honors that time.
See?
And I feel like alive. Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you, John Mayer, for what you do.
Yeah. Yep. And maybe it's going for a hike in nature. That is definitely a thing for me. I was in a classroom all week last week for 7 days for
Ooh.
my academy for flight.
Mm-hmm.
And so the first thing I did yesterday morning was I'm going on a 5-mile hike. I got to get out of
Nice.
here. I got to get some
Nice.
fresh
Yeah.
air. I have a million things to do on my list, but I'm not going to be able to think clearly when I'm trying to study if
Mhm.
I don't make that time for myself and experience those positive emotions first.
That's awesome.
Nice.
That's great.
Right. So I prepped myself in order to show up and study for the rest of my day.
Yeah, they
And
say, what do they say? Like, you have to take care of number one. Like, you got to take care of yourself
Yep.
so that you can take care of others.
What does your wife
100%.
Danny do, Jordan? What does she do?
To fill up her coffee,
Yeah.
her cup. Her, I was gonna say
Her
to fill up her
coffee?
coffee, because coffee is one of her like highlights of the day. She just loves
Me
her
too.
coffee.
Mm-hmm.
For her, she volunteers at a place called Gigi's Playhouse, which our son has Down syndrome, so she helps with that. She feels very needed and just like she's giving back, and she's actually changing the world in a way. She does that. She absolutely loves it. She now plays tennis, so she's found a hobby.
Fun.
So she goes out and
Awesome.
plays tennis, and she
so
loves
cool.
playing tennis.
So cool.
So those are, I mean, yeah, coffee. She's a big fan every morning having coffee. The weeks can be a little stressful because you're getting kids out of the door and all
Yeah,
that stuff,
yeah.
but those are some of the big things that she really enjoys.
Yeah.
Well, Jill, you've taken us on quite a journey together today. What a great episode for having like very little plan for what we did. You took us and we talked
We have
about
homework now. This is
how
great.
we can be so full of negative energy and how that just
Yeah.
we carry that into our lives, into the grocery aisles. We talked about how understanding the stressors of our lives can lead to these emotional responses and then what we do with it. We talked about prequels and maybe looking back to see how the experiences of our past have affected our present and our future, and about helping each other, draw those lines, right? Connecting this to connecting that, and connecting this and that, and then you close this with some great tips about being aware of the things that fill your cup, the positive things, about the situational events and what they make you feel, and spending your time doing that. And gave us a great example of the 5-to-1 ratio is so good for kids, but is also good for us because it rewires our brain, the neuroplasticity. Can't say it, but you get it. What a journey you took us on.
Thank you for being with us. We really appreciate it. This has been so like eye-opening.
Really fun.
Yeah.
And
It honestly, thanks for having me.
And you can find Jill on her podcast with her husband, Life Without Secrets. Hopefully you can find Jill at my house on Super Bowl Sunday or on future camping trips and dinner parties that we get to have with this lovely couple. And any other thing, and where on social media, or where else can they find you?
I'm mostly on Instagram, Life Without Secrets podcast. Just keep it to that on Instagram.
Cool.
Okay.
Much love, everybody. Do the good work. You are worth it. You are loved. Thanks for letting us be a voice in your life.